Of all the games that came out this generation, one of the most surprising games had to be Little Nightmares, a small 3-hour horror platformer from Swedish developer Taser Studios that was really enjoyable, that was filled to the brim with tense and edge-of-your-seat moments. That, whilst was short, was a very memorable horror experience. So when a sequel was announced in 2019, I got very excited. The game's finally out and I've been playing through it, so let's see what I think about it. I'll start off with the story first, and very much like the original, there isn't really a proper story as such, as the story is mostly told through its environments and your interpretation of the events, and that's one of the game's real big strengths. You play as a young lad called Mono who has a paper bag over his head, and you basically have to guide him through this dangerous world. On to the gameplay now. Unlike the original Little Nightmares 2 is a puzzle platformer that sees you going through some lavishly dark and dreary environments filled to the brim with atmosphere. You and Six, the main character of the original game, must work together to traverse these dangerous areas full of traps and creepy creatures. I actually did go in thinking it was going to go down the Unravel 2 route and actually make the game playable in 2-player co-op, but to my surprise, it's all a single-player affair, as you control Mono through the whole game, while Six is controlled via the computer, and I have to admit, it works really well. Six is capable and very helpful with none of that annoying AI companion crap you get with other games. A big part of Little Nightmares and its sequel is its experimental nature of the platforming. You go into a level and you have to move pieces of the scenery to help you get across or reach higher areas. When in chase sequences or hiding away from enemies, this is where the game's trial and error really does show, and it may split folks' opinion on the game. You will die quite a few times in these encounters, and it will most probably frustrate some, but thankfully loading after death is instantaneous. We also have some new sections in the game which sees Mono picking up a weapon to defeat some small enemies, and whilst it isn't necessary, it's a welcome if slightly clunky inclusion. The first Little Nightmares was certainly a short but sweet game, taking you a good 2 to 3 hours to reach the game's conclusion, and thankfully this sequel is a longer game. Little Nightmares 2 takes a good 6 to 8 hours to finish the game, which feels much more fulfilling this time around. It still feels brisk and leaves you wanting more, which is no bad thing to be honest. On to the presentation side of things now, and Little Nightmares 2 continues the dark and gloomy aesthetic of the original with some lovely and creepy designed vistas. The many horrid things you see along your journey add to the vibe of the game. Playing on the Switch, there's some obvious cutbacks, mostly in the resolution, and some little blurry textures. When playing docked, the game looks fine, but in handheld it is a little bit blurry, but it's far from unplayable. Conclusion time now, and Little Nightmares 2 is a welcomed and very enjoyable sequel that expands on the world very well. With a new setting and lead character, this puzzle platformer delivers a much more lengthy and creepier experience. The game still has that same wonderful environmental storytelling and plenty of edge-of-your-seat moments. Whilst the trial and error sort of platforming may annoy some, it's still a very memorable game. On whatever console you play it on, Little Nightmares 2 is a great addition to anyone's library and a must-have for fans of the series. So with that, I'm giving Little Nightmares 2 an 8 out of 10 with a title of great. As always, thank you for watching my review. I hoped you enjoyed it. If you could like and subscribe, that would be great. And until next time, as always, happy gaming. Bye.